Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how the DUP seem to be wanting to take the initiative in screwing over our withdrawal agreement with the EU and threatening both peace in Northern Ireland and what is left of our trade with our continent by sinking the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So there's a lot to discuss about what's going on regarding the Northern Ireland Protocol behind the scenes. Might seem quiet at the moment, it is not. This video was going to be on that topic, but now it's been rather overtaken by the sudden news that Edwin Poots, who's the previous leader of the DUP and still Minister for Farming and the Environment in Stormont, has plans to prevent the checks required at the Northern Ireland Protocol taking place. And there's a fair amount of uncertainty over this at the moment because it's all absolutely mad. So what's happening is that Poots wants the power to directly oversee the checks taking place at the Irish Sea border with a view to simply halting them altogether. This is going to have to be something that needs updating as more information becomes known. But this appears to be the DUP's position. They have been trying for months to persuade the UK government to unilaterally suspend the checks. This would be in direct contravention of the treaty that it freely negotiated in 2019 and signed in 2020. They thought it was imminent last autumn. Indeed, for a while, everyone thought it was going to happen in November. Then various influential EU member states threatened to dissolve the trade and cooperation agreement if we did. Not just France and Ireland, who were the most affected, but other member states as well showed solidarity, big ones. Frost and Johnson gambled on splitting the EU on the issue. This is where there is a fundamental misunderstanding on the part of the British government, for me. It has long been said that the UK's interest, even amongst pro-EU politicians, has been mercantile. The European family was set up as a peace project, supported by the UK indeed. One that has succeeded impressively, an unprecedented period of peace amongst the major powers of Europe, never been seen before. Not in the whole of history has this ever been seen before. But it did achieve this peace, but not through the cunning deployment of doves, but in trade benefits. The UK tried to sit on the outside, but they were losing out on these trade benefits, so we joined. Took a while, they didn't want us at first, but we did. And that has always been our chief interest. Now, I've argued that this is because Britain has not been invaded in living memory. That is my hypothesis. We take peace for granted. I think this is also why too many in Britain never considered the impact of Brexit on Northern Ireland. Most people in Britain, even if they're aware, cannot really appreciate what life was like in Northern Ireland before the Good Friday Agreement. But the point is that they imagined that everyone else thought as they do. They thought that threatening the protocol would only be a problem for Ireland and France, so like Germany and Spain and all the rest aren't going to screw over their own businesses to help out Ireland and France. We wouldn't do that, so why would they? They couldn't understand that other countries would put themselves out in solidarity with their fellow members because they were getting a collective benefit from doing so. But this is exactly what happened in November, and it completely threw Johnson. Completely threw him. There was a hurried rewrite of a David Frost speech where he was actually expected to announce the start of the process of dropping bits of the protocol that they didn't like. The speech changed to one of wanting to seek a negotiated outcome, and that has remained Johnson's position since. Frost saw that it was untenable, and so too was Johnson's position within the party, and he ran away. Liz Truss has since taken over. Now, I was going to talk about her latest shenanigans, but that will now have to be shelved, for now at least, maybe forever. Because if the DUP managed to actually block officials from carrying out checks, then the protocol will have already been unilaterally scrapped and nothing to do with Liz Truss. It won't matter that it is technically Stormont that's doing so and not Westminster. It will be the UK unilaterally breaching an international treaty. It will be no different to if Boris Johnson ordered the same thing. Now, I've not yet seen the EU Commission reaction to this. It may be that they do not react publicly until something really happens. This may not require much waiting because it sounds like they're going to try it now, but it may not. So the way it's worked, Ed Poots and the First Minister Paul Givan, who's also the DUP of course, they believe they've got a cunning plan. You wait for this. They think that they have the authority to tell civil servants to stop those checks now. Sinn Féin said, no you can't. They won't follow that order because it's unlawful, even though Poots is their political boss. To be specific, the DUP are arguing that the checks can only be conducted with the authority of the executive in Stormont. So Poots has therefore asked the executive to give him the authority to carry out these protocol checks. So he's gone to the executive and he said, look, give me the authority to carry out the checks needed of the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now that sounds a bit weird. If he wants the checks stopped, why is he asking to be able to carry them out? Because if this goes to the executive for permission, and if the DUP members of that executive veto the request, then he can tell his officials to stop carrying out these checks on the basis that he was denied the authority to do so by Stormont. If that sounds absolutely barking, good, it means your brain is working. Naturally, Sinn Féin used their veto to stop the motion even coming before the executive. So now Poots is claiming victory. He's saying, backed by the DUP First Minister, he's saying, the executive haven't given me the authority for my department to carry out these checks, so they shouldn't do so. At that point, and at the point at which I'm recording this, I will actually say, no memo has actually gone around his officials telling them to stop. And I don't even know how that is going to work. But let's say this does happen. And there's no reason for it to happen imminently. It could happen next week, might happen for a month. The first step would be to see what those officials think. Do they stop the checks because they've been told to by their minister? Or do they carry on saying that they need to see more robust reasoning than an email from a lunatic, albeit a lunatic who is their boss? If they conclude that they have to continue with the checks, then as Sinn Féin suggested, the DUP are going to look rather silly. If they do stop the checks, then the ball will be in the Westminster Government's court. Messy for Johnson. Not necessarily Liz Truss, she's just in charge of talks, not actual day-to-day running of the protocol. If officials under the direction of Stormont do not carry out the required checks, Boris Johnson will be expected to send officials from DEFRA to do so. He has a legal obligation to make sure the checks take place. He's also the head of the government covering the whole of the UK, so there'll be no wriggling out of it in terms of deferring to the devolved administration. Politically awkward. If Johnson gets George Eustace, the cabinet minister for DEFRA, to send officials to take over, he risks pissing off not just the DUP, which I don't think he's all that bothered about, but the raging nutters in his own party. Right now, he's in an incredibly vulnerable position. He can't afford to go and piss off about 100 of his own MPs. He's capitulating on issue after issue with them already. But if he does nothing, then he has breached the treaty and the ball will be then in the EU's court. If they follow through on their November threats, they will announce the start of a process which ends with the dissolution of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. No deal with the EU at all. This is exactly what the raging nutters want, by the way, so don't imagine they will balk at this. But Johnson clearly understands the consequences. What is the point of surviving this current challenge to his leadership if his goose is cooked when our already thin Brexit deal disappears in smoke? And all because a bunch of lunatics who insist that the earth is only 6,000 years old. The best outcome for everyone is that this plan goes nowhere at all. That these DUP politicians, who have a tenuous relationship with reality at the best of times, are simply ignored. That officials in the Northern Irish Agriculture Department regard any instruction to stop checks without a court order as being fundamentally ridiculous. But without me knowing more at the moment, the possibility exists, let us say, for this instruction, when it is eventually issued, and I do not know when that will be, to be carried out. Messy. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.